Let's start with partial products and do 306 times 78. I'm going to start with 8 times 6, which is 48. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do the 8 times the 0. So that's just going to be 0. Next, I'm going to do the 8 times 3, which technically that's 300. So that's going to be 2400. And then now I'm going to move on to the 7, which is in the tens place, so that's 70. So I'm going to do 70 times 6. So 7 times 6 is 42, so this is going to be 420. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the 7 times 0. You can think of that as 0 as being in the tens place, but it's still 0, right? So 70 times 0 is still 0. And then finally, I'm going to do 70 times 300. So 7 times 3 is 21. So I'm actually going to need to do 21 and then attach 3 zeros. So this is going to be 21,000. See if I can line that up a little bit better. And then I'm going to add all that up. So 8 plus a bunch of zeros would be 8. Here I have 4 plus 2 is 6. 4 plus 4 is 8. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then this is just a 2. So I'm going to need 23,868. If I were to show this horizontally, this one's a little bit weird due to the 0 in 306. So if you really want to, you could write this as 300 plus 0 plus 6. If you did that, then that means that you're going to show these steps that I showed with the vertical method. Although if you wanted to leave those steps out of both methods, you technically could, right? If we're just multiplying by 0, we don't really need to write those. So if you wanted to, you could put them in. If you wanted to, you could leave them out. If I do leave them out in the horizontal method, then I would just write this as 300 plus 6 times 70 plus 8. So doing it that way, I could actually just use the FOIL method. So 300 times 70 would be 21,000. And then let me go ahead and do the outer terms, 300 times 8. So that would be 2,400. 2, not a 3 there. And then let me do my inner terms. So that's going to be the 6 times 70, which is 420. And then finally the last terms, 6 times 8, which is 48. So if I did not include the zeros, this is what my horizontal work would look like. And I get 23,868. For the area model, you could do the same thing. On the area model, I absolutely would not include the 0 because you can't really draw a box with an area of 0 because if it has an area of 0, then it doesn't really exist. It has no area. So I would not put 300 plus 0 plus 6 on your area model. I would just split this up into 300 plus 6 and divide that. And then we'll do the 70 plus 8 and subdivide that. And so this one's going to be 300 times 70 is 21,000. We've got this one down here is the 300 times 8, which is 2,400. The top right is going to be the 6 times 70, which is 420. And then the bottom right is just going to be the 6 times 8, which is the 48. Let's do the lattice method. So I'm going to put 306 across the top and then 78 across the right-hand side. So that means I'm going to have 3 going this way and 2 going this way. Like this. Line that up a little bit better here. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my diagonals for my initial setup. So here's my setup. And let's go ahead and do the multiplication. 3 times 7 is 21. 0 times 7 is 0, which means I'm going to put zeros in both of those boxes. 6 times 7 is 42. 3 times 8 is 24. 0 times 8 is 0. Again, I'll put zeros in both boxes. 6 times 8 is 48. And then I'm going to add along each diagonal this rightmost, starting with the rightmost and working my way left. This is just 8. The next diagonal is 2 plus 4 plus 0, which is 6. The next one is 4 plus 0 plus 0 plus 4, which is 8. The next one is 0 plus 1 plus 2, which is 3. And the last one is just the 2. So we get 23,868. And then let me show the standard algorithm. Starting with the longer number, 306, and then listing 78. I'm going to start by multiplying the 8 times each digit in 306. 8 times 6 is 48. So I'm going to write an 8 and regroup a 4. 8 times 0 is 0, but I'm going to go ahead and add the 4 that I regrouped. So 0 plus 4 is 4. 8 times 3 is 24. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase my regrouping from earlier and put a 0 placeholder as I move on to the 7. 7 times 6 is 42. I'm going to write a 2 and regroup a 4. 7 times 0 is 0, but I'm going to add the 4 I regrouped and get 4. Finally, 7 times 3 is 21. And then I add these together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 2 is 6. 4 plus 4 is 8. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then just a 2, and I get the same answer, 23,868.